Melissa and I were so pleased that we get to bring together the co-creative community and the Collective Leadership Institute communities. Our organizations feel a lot of resonance around shared values and shared work that we've done in the past. And we thought it would be lovely to bring together practitioners who have experienced co-creative trainings and others who have experienced CLI trainings and collaborations. So I think people will continue joining, but just so we do keep to our time, I'll kick things off. Yeah, so this is our first ever practitioner methodology exchange between Co-Creative and Collective Leadership Institute. And the idea is that we're learning directly from practitioners who are applying approaches they've learned from either of our organizations in real world contexts. I get to co-facilitate with Melissa Darnell from Co-Creative, and we welcome you all into this space. Melissa, would you care to say hello and also present Co-Creative?
Yeah, you bet. Hello, everybody. Melissa, as Dominic just mentioned, I'm with Co-Creative, and we have a couple of slides, I think, just by way of introduction. So we are a US-based consultancy, and the way that we describe our work often is that we help people who don't know one another and maybe might not even like one another really co-create the futures that they want together. So we're focused on that really messy and difficult and lovely and wonderful part of multi-stakeholder collaboration, where regardless of the industry or the particular topic that folks are working on, it really does require us to work across sectors, across time zones, to leverage the diversity and the power to solve sort of those pernicious social challenges. And we also, as Dominic mentioned, have a robust program that includes lots of training and coaching and other things to support leaders to do this work as well. So we have one more slide just to give you a sense of the kinds of collaborations that we have worked on in the past. You can see here everything from global collaborations to place-based opportunities where people are working on coming together to really harness the expertise and the wisdom of people involved in systems to transform them to work better for everyone. And we're delighted to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa, for taking up the invitation. From the CLI side, my name is Dominic Stucker. I've been managing partner at CLI for a bit over a decade. These are some of our team members. This was a couple summers ago at our last in-person retreat. We're an international mission-driven NGO. We're based both in Potsdam, Germany, and in Cape Town, South Africa, as well as an emerging office in Cairo, Egypt. We were founded in 2005, and we focus very strongly on building multi-stakeholder dialogue and collaboration capacity for realizing just, sustainable, and peaceful futures. We're encouraging and empowering people to lead collectively toward transformed futures. And broadly, this includes 3 different areas. We're building collaboration capacity through our academy. I'll be sharing more about a couple of the models that we use. We also co-design and accompany different transformation processes for small to large systems change. And we convene a community of practice, many of whom are here in the room, of collective leadership specialists who have been certified through a 3-part workshop series that we offer. And we participate in external networks and movements for regenerative societies. A couple numbers we have through our academy and through our project-based work, over 7,000 individuals who've worked with us from around the world. People seem to find the trainings useful and recommend them quite broadly. You see here, we work quite strongly across Africa, Asia, and Europe, and to date have been involved in about 83 concrete projects. And now our community of practice numbers over 400 certified collective leadership specialists. Yeah, so it's a great privilege for Melissa and I to facilitate this event close to the end of the calendar year. This is sort of the last official thing that I'm doing this week, and I'm really glad that I get to spend this time with you. The goals that we've crafted for these 90 minutes together, you see here. Relationally, we care about creating a safe and an engaging space so that we can get into some exchange and learning. specifically with some selected practitioners from our networks who are applying transformative practices and models in their work. And finally, as we think about next steps going forward, also thinking about 2026, Melissa and I would like to share some resources with you, open source resources, as well as trainings that we'll be offering in the coming months. The speakers that we'll get to hear from the co-creative community, June Warde and Lena Borsoy, both from Ashoka. You'll learn more about them momentarily. And from CLI's community, Sumaya Khalfewi from We Love Kairouan in Tunisia. In this session, we're inviting you into a space where we'd like to all try to model some session norms, including embodying respect in all our interactions, some patience with technical glitches if and when they occur, because they often do. In terms of voicing, we're expressing our views clearly and concisely. There will be time for some interaction after we hear from practitioners. We'll have questions and conversation. And in those conversations, be clear, be concise. Please listen with this attitude of seeking to understand. And of course, if we can manage to suspend our own judgments or preconceptions, it's a bit easier to remain open to others' perspectives that we're hearing about. Hopefully those norms resonate with you. That's the kind of space we'd like to create in this session. Melissa, I'd like to give the floor over to you for a check-in, if I may.
Yeah, thank you. So we already recognize some new names and some familiar faces, but we want you all to know who is in the space also. So our invitation to you is to put in the chat your name, the place where you're joining from, because we have a wonderful international group with us together today. And then what's one reason why you came to this particular session on this particular day? We're inviting you to share these things in the chat with one another so we can get a sense of who we are as a group of people. And then we are hoping that we can take a group photo. So I just want to plant a seed while you're thinking about that. If that's something that you're open to, we invite you to get ready to turn on your camera if it's not already on. Who's here? Your name, your place, one reason why you came today. Mary's here from Canada. Excellent. Oh, from Turkey. Monroe is coming from Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you so much for being here. Jordan, Brussels, Athens, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm actually joining you from Yellowstone National Park in rural Montana, USA. Ross is here from Peru. Welcome, welcome. Oh, Christy, it's so lovely to have you here too. Egypt, Minnesota, the Netherlands. Thank you so much for coming, all of you, and for accepting our invitations. Seeing lots of reasons that folks came is because they were warmly invited. And so we're so glad to have you here. Kim is here from Washington, D.C. Jennifer, yay. Good to see you. It's been a minute. Juan, so nice to see you from the Valle de Bravo in Mexico. Really lovely. Thank you so much.
We appreciate that you're coming in from all over the world. When I looked at those who registered, there were a couple of dozen countries, and we saw in the text chat everyone who's coming in. We do want to protect space for our speakers. So Melissa, I suggest that we could jump right into an input from your side. You want me to share the slides again?
Yeah, I love that. That would be so great. Thank you so much.
All right, sure. Let's do that. There it is. All right.
Oh, and I see I've accidentally raised my hand. Let me fix that. All right. So it's December 16. We're all here in different time zones. I want to share with you some patterns of collaboration that show up in our work. But before we do that, I wanted us to take a moment to fully arrive. So I invite you to place your feet flat on the floor and take a deep breath in. And notice where you might be holding some tension. And now on your next exhale, I want you to let your shoulders drop down. And notice, what does collaboration feel like in your body right now? Is it expansive? Is it contracted? Is it buzzing with energy? Is it heavy? I want you to hold on to that sensation because we're going to explore how these patterns show up in our meetings, but also in our bodies as we engage with other people to support the world and one another in our flourishing. So we can go to the next slide. CoCreative has identified 6 patterns that appear again and again and again in the collaborations that we have supported globally. And these aren't tools that we invented, but they're rhythms that we've noticed. And they're the way waves have patterns or breathing has a rhythm. So specifically today, I want to just introduce 3 of them. And then as you heard, June and Lena are going to explore how they've worked with them and how they've showed up in some of their practice at Ashoka. And then the other 3 patterns we'll share some resources on. And you may see actually all 6 of the patterns woven together throughout this session. So the ones that I'm going to talk about now are diverging and converging, working concurrently, and the design squiggle, or how sort of messiness and uncertainty can show up. We will go into the first one now. Thank you so much for advancing the slides for me, Dominic. So thinking about your breath, you inhale, your lungs expand, you're taking things in, then you exhale, your lungs contract, it releases. We can't just inhale and we can't just exhale. Let's look at this again by breathing with me one more time. Take a breath in right now and feel that divergence. And then when you exhale fully, feel the convergence. This is a rhythm. In collaboration, we do this with our ideas. We open wide to gather perspectives, and we want all of them, as many and rich and diverse as we can. And then we focus in to make decisions that help us to come together. Both of these things are essential, and the challenge is knowing which one a group needs in a particular moment. So this idea, sometimes it's called the double diamond. I think we can go to the next slide. It comes from the work of Sam Keener, and he also called it the diamond of participation. And we at CoCreative have expanded it to see this pattern everywhere in collaboration work. We have the place where we're diverging, we have the place where we're converging, and then we have in the middle what's called the groan zone. And this is the moment where you've gathered lots of perspectives, perhaps, and nothing is really clear yet. It feels messy and chaotic and overwhelming. People start to get very anxious, and some people might even say, wait, what are we even doing right now? Maybe some of you have experienced the groan zone. The discomfort isn't a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's a sign that you're doing really deep work. And it's the composting that has to happen in order for new growth to emerge. On the next slide, when we think about like how we're supporting groups around this, our job as facilitators is first to recognize when we need to diverge or converge. And then we also need to help stay in divergence long enough that we can get to the richness and the beauty of what is going to emerge in the group. We can also make sure that we're normalizing the groan zone because this is actually supposed to feel messy. If we're not uncomfortable, we're not doing our deepest work. And then we can guide groups to convergence and clarity around their decisions. So I have a somatic check. I want to know what happens in your body when I say it's supposed to be messy. Like, does that make you nervous, anxious? Do you relax? Do you tense up? Do you get curious? Maybe you can share that in the chat while we move on to the second pattern that we wanted to offer today. We can go to the next slide, actually. Thank you so much. So imagine the kitchen at your favorite neighborhood restaurant, right? Maybe it's dinner rush or lunch rush or something like that. One person cannot do everything. We have to have multiple people work in different parts of the kitchen simultaneously in order for everybody to be able to enjoy their dining experience. And that's where it all comes together. This is really the work of working concurrently, parallel processes, rather than sometimes a tension that we feel to move in linear sequential work. Here's what happens. Most groups feel like work needs to happen linearly, or they feel as though everyone needs to have a say in every part of the process. And in our experience, what that means is that work gets slowed down. Some people get really bored or they may disengage, and it actually silences diverse voices because it creates an opportunity for just a few people to dominate the conversation. So here is an example, a concrete example. So instead of discussing one person's strategy for 2 hours and then saying thank you, and then moving to the next person's strategy and discussing that for 2 hours, etc., we could have 3 groups work on different strategies simultaneously. And so we could have the same time or shorter time, and we can have 3 times the progress, and we can have a deeper level of engagement. So on the next slide, when we're thinking about concurrent work, our job as facilitators then is to really figure out when will concurrent processes support people in doing their best collaborative work. So when would a parallel process work faster and bring out more diverse thinking? We can design for those things. We can also figure out, what the deliverable might be. We can support clear structures. What does each stream mean? We can create integration points where the parallel work can come back together and we can figure out the best harvest method. And we can build trust with groups of people who are like, oh my gosh, because we can tell them multiple things are happening at the same time, and here's how it comes together. So while I'm moving on to pattern 3, I want to see if you can pat your head and rub your belly at the same time, because that's the coordination that we want to design for when we're thinking about leveraging the pattern of working concurrently. Okay, so I'm almost done. Thank you for being patient. The third pattern is this idea of the design squiggle. Has anybody heard of this? Okay, so I want to go deeper into the messy middle, the way I talked about as the groan zone. So there's a visual that captures this beautifully, and it's called the design squiggle. CoCreative did not make this up, but we use it and we leverage it and we think about it in our work. It's the chaotic squiggly line that gradually becomes straighter over time. So this image shows the process of researching and designing. Like at the beginning, the line is wild, it's chaotic, it's squiggly. That's the uncertainty, the exploration, the possibility that we want when we're designing new systems that are going to be better for all of us, right? So over time, through iteration and learning, it gradually becomes straighter, clearer, more focused. That's clarity, and that's when we can make decisions. So this is the thing I want to leave you with, and that is that you cannot skip the squiggle. We cannot go straight from question to answer or from complexity to clarity. The mess is not the detour. The mess is the path. This shows up in our collaborations all the time. We can go to the next slide. Because what happens is usually groups panic in the squiggle because they want to jump immediately to the end. And they think that the mess means that there's something that is wrong. Something has happened that's not working right, and people feel anxious. So our job as facilitators then is to normalize it. We can say to groups, and this is on the next slide, we're in the squiggle right now. It's supposed to feel uncertain and overwhelming. This is a creative process. Allow people to relax into the squiggle. We can help people tolerate it because structures can be messy, but we're all learning together and we're gradually and collectively straightening that line. We can disrupt old thinking, we can trust the process, and invite other people to trust the process too, because the line will straighten, but only if we stay in the squiggle long enough. So notice how the design squiggle contains the diverge and the converge pattern. The squiggle is the divergence and the straightening is the convergence. The patterns act at different scales over time, and it's a longer arc, but they are interwoven together. Next slide. These are the three patterns. We're going to drop some more stuff in the chat for you in just a minute. We have others that we will give you some resources on. I think the last thing that I want to leave you with is that the recognition gives you a map that you're in the middle of complexity, and that's where you want to be, thinking about the patterns and leveraging them. They're not just concepts, and June and Lena are going to explore what it means to live with these patterns in their work at Ashoka. So I would like to turn it over to them.
Thank you, Melissa. And hi, everyone. June here. Yeah, a little clap for Melissa for sharing this with us. Thank you. And yeah, hi everyone. June here. As Melissa and Dominic mentioned, I work with my colleague Lina at Ashoka. And very quickly, for those who are not familiar with Ashoka, we're an organization and a global organization. Hi, Shehu, nice to see you again. We're a global organization who, at the core of our work, we have a network of, I want to say the right number, a bit over 3,800 systems changing social entrepreneurs, which we call Ashoka Fellows. And that's the core of our work. Is we've recognized social entrepreneurship and the importance of social entrepreneurship in really creating change and shifting systems. And the organization is over 40 years old. And through this time working with those individuals that are shifting systems, that are shifting the status quo in their community and in their context, we've realized this need to shift away from this mindset of one person that does all the work and is the hero and does everything, to recognizing and realizing the importance for everyone to have that ability to recognize that ability and to have the tools to lead change as well. And that's how we recognize the systems change, and that's what we view the systems change as part of our work. And so we do this by continuing to select social entrepreneurs that we call Ashoka Fellows. We also have partnerships with corporate partners, but also educational institutions and governments and all sorts of stakeholders in order to bring our vision of a world where everyone is a change maker across contexts and collaborate with them. And also and that's where we collaborate with CoCreative, with Melissa here in the CoCreative team. We bring tools, knowledge, and resources to our community. And by our community, I don't just mean the Ashoka Fellows or Ashoka Partners, but our network at large. And so Lena and I have been lucky to work with CoCreative for the past few years on this topic of multi-stakeholder collaboration, because we've realized that as we talk about changing system, changing mindsets, changing a status quo, we've realized that because we can't have that one hero narrative, it's important to know how we collaborate. How do we bring different stakeholders from across the system together to create change together? And we've collaborated with CoCreative to build a learning journey on the topic of multi-stakeholder collaboration that is grounded in the experiences of CoCreative, as well as our knowledge and wisdom from Ashoka and our Ashoka Fellows. And I'm actually joining, or Lena and I are both joining here with our hat of knowledge from CoCreative, but actually because we get to deliver this learning journey and we get to know this knowledge so well, we also get to apply it across our work. And so we each are going to share a little bit of a different story of how we take this and apply it to different parts of our work as facilitators, practitioners, and as we work with different communities. So apart from working on the leading multi-stakeholder collaboration course with CoCreative, a part of my work at Ashoka is also to lead global programs, which we call Changemaker Challenges, right? And those Changemaker Challenges are these journeys where we do a big call to action and look and find social entrepreneurs from all across the globe that are answering a specific problem or answering a specific question, but we also engage them all throughout the way. And a really, really important part of doing this kind of program is the setting up stage. And I was recently working on an initiative in the context of London, where we were working with different local stakeholders, so London, UK-based stakeholders, as well as different stakeholders from within Ashoka, so different teams from within Ashoka, to set up the foundation for a challenge, for a program that would enable young people access to like sports and play. So it was all around giving young people and children across London access to sports and the ability to practice sports and the ability to play, because not everybody does. The context was we were 3 teams from within Ashoka. So our sports expert team, our team that is focused on sports and change making, our UK local team, and then our team that is the program delivery team. So that's, we've got local, topic, and then program delivery. And then on the ground, we had 5 different partners. We had the local government, we had a foundation representing the London Marathon Foundation. We had a few others, I'm not going to name them all, but we had a few other local foundations and public sector organizations focused on the field of sports. So you're imagining 8 different types of stakeholders. We need to build something together. We kind of know the general goal, but we've got to all align on something, and we've all got to all agree on what it is that we're going to do. All knowing that we want to enable young people to have access to sports and play. That's a really important part of it. And so to do this, to get all these 8 different people with very different hats, very different perspectives, priorities, experiences, to get us all to align on what it is that we're going to do and to be in the same page, we had a bit of a process, which we call the framing process. And I was the facilitator of this, and I facilitated this in a series of workshops. And each workshop had a bit of a different shift, a bit of a different focus, right? So at first we were like, okay, we had to decide what the exact problem that we're addressing is. Then what is the question that we're looking to answer? Then how are we going to answer it? What's the journey going to look like? What kinds of people are we going to look for? And that felt quite overwhelming at first, right? And that was like, God, there's a lot going on. How am I going to go from vagueness to we've got a clear program? And the guidance that I found that was most useful is actually I used the diverge converge pattern that Melissa just shared as a guidance to map the process. So it was a series of workshops, and each workshop was either focused on diverging or focused on converging. And you'll see that Melissa, when she shared it, she talked about, the first diverge converge diamond is focused on problem, and then the next one is focused on solution. I readapted it because it was much more than problem solution. There was many phases, right? But I used it to map first workshop, we got to do the problem. Then next workshop, okay, but we got to figure out what exact question we're looking to answer, right? What is the exact goal that we're looking to achieve? And then, what is the entry form going to look like? What's the design going to look like? There's all these very specific questions that we need to answer. And so I came into the first ever meetup that we had, and that's one of the first things that I talked about. I first showed the pattern more generally and said, oh, look, there's this diverge converge pattern, and this is something we are going to experience. We are going to experience opening. And some of you might feel really uncomfortable by that, but don't worry, because we are going to close. We are going to converge. So I talked about the pattern in general, and then I showed it as the whole journey. So this is what we are going to do across each step of the way. And then at each workshop, I would show, look, here we are. Here's where we are. Today, we're going to just talk, right? Don't worry about having to come to a decision. We're just going to talk. Or actually today, the goal is for us to come to a decision by the end of this. So be in the mindset of needing to converge. And so that kind of set the expectation from the onset, but at every session, it also set that expectation for people. And that actually worked out quite well. It doesn't mean that there wasn't that messiness that Melissa's talking about, because that's necessary if you're doing any kind of wanting to do complex systems change, right? But it kind of put people in a position of trust the process. And I do think it enabled, especially in the divergence, I think it enabled for a lot of people to be creative, to not be restricted by, oh, but how does that look like in concrete? What does it look like in the context of a decision? It was just kind of like, just go for it and trust it'll make sense later, or we will together make sense of it together later. And then same with the convergence. I think it kind of was like, okay, we've got too much going on, but don't worry, we're going to converge now. And it just means what the process was going to look like. I did feel that, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, I did feel that people kind of struggled a bit more to converge with that specific group. I think every time we would start converging, people would be like, wait, but what about this that we talked about 2 sessions ago? And it would be like, okay, wait, now we're reopening the thing when we're supposed to be focusing down. And the process that I kind of used when I was in that situation is that I would kind of ask the group, is this something we want to reopen? Do we want to read this? Or are we comfortable with this is good enough and we keep it in the frame? So we don't eliminate it, but we keep it in our frame of thought and revisit it later. And that's kind of usually how it would go. And like there's one time that we actually reopened the conversation completely. And other times where it was like, okay, no, this is good enough. But it was really, really useful, I think, to recognize that this is like a messy process and that it's going to be open close. So I think recognizing it made people feel more comfortable in following it. And then it also just kind of gave us a frame of like when there was that kind of tension of, wait, I don't want to diverge so much or I don't want to converge so much. There was that common frame of reference of, okay, but we know this is where we are right now. And let's see how we feel after we're done. Let's see how we feel at the end. And I felt that that was quite cool. And we ended up with a very, very great program, which actually is launched. So I could share this as a follow-up, maybe, Dominic, in case there's people in the UK that are interested to learn more about this. And I will pass it on to Lena, who wants to share more about the other ways in which these patterns have showed up for her.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm having some connection issue. So please tell me if it's not working from my hand. So I'm joining from my phone. I wanted to share a bit of a story, but also reflection on one pattern that has been specifically insightful for me in my work. That is the working concurrently pattern. And the reason why it was so insightful for me is that it has been challenging my ways and bias to work in a certain way. Maybe it's an Occidental or Western way, and maybe some of you can relate, that wants to work in process, in timelines, in order. And I think to me, the working concurrently has been a pattern that highlighted my tendency to that, and also challenged my views of understanding that everything in life, or mostly everything in life, doesn't work in a linear process. Our living beings, our living systems are very much organic, circular, working in spirals and so on. So that has been a highlighting process for me. And the way I've been leveraging, and maybe I can use a case or a specific project that I've been facilitating in France, which is a feminist health center that gather different health professionals, activists, and citizens wanting to embody and create a space to create an inclusive and community health approach that recognize the sexist and sexual violence that the society imposes on women and wants to do something about it. And so it has been a gathering of different health professionals with different ways of practicing health. And what was very interesting was the ability for them to create small pockets of work, small action learning centers, basically, of different solutions or different ways of approaching the vision that they wanted to tackle. And I think that has been powerful to enable different ways of testing what was the best answer, or what could be the different type of answers to the problem they were saying and to the way they wanted to respond to it. And I think in this way of getting organized, of having small groups that were, for example, doing some cycle talking around violence, for example, other groups that were working on the model of hosting a cafe for the community and for people to show up and share spaces. There have been small areas of experimentation that really enabled people to see what were the different layers to responding to the intention that they had in common. And I think the working concurrently pattern that is needed, for effective collaboration speaks to the need of having a clear intention for the collective, for people to be grounded and to have the level of trust and alignment that enable them to work in parallel and then reconvene with towards a shared intention. The things that made me reflect as well was around the level of trust. I think Melissa named that in her presentation, that is needed for this type of organization to happen. But then I was also wondering about the layer of power sharing, and maybe some of you, and that's something we can discuss in later in a few minutes. I was actually wondering what stands in the way of working concurrently and working in parallel when we are in the setup of a network. And something that came in my experience was around our own maybe sometimes ego or biases on sharing power and trusting in this power sharing or letting go of control. And that is something that that came to my mind, or I could notice in some dynamics. And I'm still in the process of trying to understand how to address it or name it earlier, or support, this type of realization for others. I'll stop here because I know we have only a couple of minutes, and we wanted maybe to share a few words around the design squiggle, June, if you want to.
I wonder, I feel like we've touched quite a bit on that point of messiness across our both stories, but as Melissa said, I think the design squiggle doesn't get the spotlight, enough spotlight, because there's really something so key there, right? About just putting it out there and being like, by the way, this is gonna be messy, right? But just saying that, people go, okay, as opposed to when it gets messy, if you've not said that it's supposed to be like this, which everybody knows, but sometimes you don't really put it in the consciousness, I think it gets people to check out. That's when you get people to like actually run away. It's kind of that fight or flight response, and then you just fly away because it's too complex. Well, if you put it out there, then it's like, okay, this is just it. This is what we're doing. I know we want to open it up to questions, and honestly, I think this is so much more interesting to hear from you all than to just have our own voices be heard. So I think we've got a few minutes for questions. Dominic, Melissa, looking at you. But yeah, any questions for Lena or I or Melissa?
Yeah, and we invite you to come off of mute or put something in the chat. We're keeping track of the chat, so it's lovely to be with you, and we want to hear from you, as June said.
Can I ask a question, Melissa?
Yeah, of course, Marie.
I'm just reflecting on the word messy and wondering if I get by, there's some level setting of needing to say this feels messy and having people accept that. But I'm curious to hear, as leaders, if it feels messy to you, or do you feel that the word messy is kind of code for nonlinear or feeling uncomfortable, or messy as in relational? How would you define that mess? And one of the reasons I ask that is that I have seen how messy can be used as a shorthand for unorganized, and I didn't prepare for this meeting. Or messy can also be used as a way to describe a new process or unfamiliar terrain. So I'm just wondering, let me restate that, is how that feels for you as leaders, and how you might decode that term messy for yourselves.
Yeah, I'm looking to June and to Lena, but I'm also curious for other people on the call. Maybe messy isn't the right word because it's not appropriate across cultural contexts or across language boundaries. Like, how do we think about that or describe it? Or what is the word that we use to normalize that feeling of uncertainty in the groan zone?
I don't know if I have the one answer. To me in French, we talk about désordre, and it's disorder. I'm not sure if actually it's fitting to other cultural contexts, but désordre doesn't mean that there are missing pieces or it's not, but everything is there, just placed differently in the room. So I feel, to me, there's this layer, and there's the layer of really connecting to a certain level of self-awareness and checking back with the team, because what we name is that during the messy process, there could be some, impact on the engagement of participants and network members. And I feel it takes a lot to, on interpersonal relationship, to take care of how messiness is impacting us individually and differently, and kind of doing some sense around that. But I'm thinking there are other voices on the chat. Yeah, complexity as well. I can relate.
Yeah, or explorative is another word that's emerging to describe the same thing.
I think that's a really interesting question, Marie. I think I aligned a bit with Lena, I think in big part probably because we talk about this together as part of this course, right? So we have a shared almost definition, but to me it's very much this element of like disorganized, like not lack of organization, but the fact that even though it's not a linear process, right? But in your mind, you're like, we're going to go from A to B to C. And then when you're at B, you realize you have to go to Z and then go to H and then come back to B and then maybe go back to A, right? So it's the unexpected twists and turns that come your way as part of as you progress through the work. And to me, I think as you were asking, I was like, I feel like my own definition of it would actually be probably a bit of overwhelm, right? Like I know that I'm going to feel overwhelmed at some point. And I, as a facilitator, I think it's my role to be like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. Let's put the whole picture in front of me and see where do we take it next. But I actually sense that 100%. Like I love seeing the answers in the chat because I think this is a very different answer for different kinds of people, right? I think there's a cultural element, and I think there's like different ways of working. I think there's people who love the opening and people who love the closing and people who love the middle, right? I love that people are like, oh, exploration, curiosity from being in the mess. I'm like, I have a first moment of and then I go, wait, this is good. Let's have fun with it, you know? But yeah, to me,
Yeah, I
it's
think
this.
there's something nice about what you're saying about container, of saying there's this, and then we will get to this, because people need to know that it's bounded somehow. We're not kind of unleashing. But also, I think any word that is used, whether it's exploration or messy, seems to, what's interesting about the word messy is that it's visual and it's emotive, right? And an opportunity to bring in that sensory and emotive and intuitive aspect of this work that is fundamentally relational. So if you're sitting down to a family dinner, it's like you immediately recognize that you're holding a bunch of things at once, you know, your relational knowledge, your intuition, whatever types of knowledge. So I guess the way that I'm thinking about it is stating that this is messy or whatever word, but I think opening it up to the group about what is that actually might be helpful. Or if you found that helpful, curious.
Yeah, thank you so much for offering your comments in the chat too. I think we have time for one more question, if I'm okay, giving a thumbs up from Dominic, or a reflection that you might have, or a curiosity, at least that I'm holding, is if you've seen any of these patterns in your work, like is this resonant to you in your contexts? Yeah, Paula.
Yes, can you hear me? Sorry, no video today, but if you can hear me, that's great. You know, when we're looking at things that are messy, we have to realize, I think, that there's this sense of they're all resources that we need to look at to be able to figure out what the next steps are. And if you think about maybe if you've ever had to unravel a skein of wool or a ball of yarn or something like that, to be able to use that yarn or wool or what have you, you have to untangle it. So it's the messiness is this unentangling it in your mind, for your organization, the resources that are necessary to move through to the next step and it's part of the process of untangling what you need to be able to then move into the next phase of what you want to do. So I think that it's inevitable. I also like the terms that were in the chat of emergent and adaptive, because I think it means that things are not simple and straightforward, and life is not simple or straightforward. Sometimes we have to sit with the entanglement to be able to figure out, well, then this is important for us. These are all resources for us. And how do we want to wisely use these resources to move forward with our plan? Or with what we intend, or how do we listen to what's emerging in the new way that we want to operate? So just some thoughts I thought I'd add. And you know, no one gets too upset over a ball of yarn that's entangled. You just have to untangle it. And so it's part of the process. So think of messiness as part of the process you need to go through to be able to have clarity at the other end.
Thank you so much for that metaphor. It's reminding me too that my husband is a fly fisherman. And so there's lots of untangling that happens in fishing also. Thank you so much for that metaphor. I wish we had more time, but I think we're going to transition now because I'm so excited to hear about CLI's methodology and also another experience before we end our time together. So thank you again for being here, for your comments. I'm going to check the chat as we're moving along, and we'll drop some additional links in there for you also. Dominic, I think we're over to you.
Let's give June and Lena and Melissa a round of applause and some hearts. Thank you for spending time on preparing that input and for bringing it into this circle. I think not only the discussion, but we leave with further questions and resources that will support us on our respective journeys. Yeah, I'm very excited to share a bit of CLI methodology and then make space for Sumaya to come in and share a concrete case from Tunisia. And I'll try to pick up on some of the terms I've already been hearing in the discussion we just had. So a collective leadership approach and story. The two main models that I'll share with you very briefly are complementary. On the left side, you have the collective leadership compass, which is designed as a tool for enlivening collaborations, both through assessment and through planning. And the compass has multiple lenses. So within each of those 6 dimensions you see there are specific lenses for applying to the individual, to teams and partnerships, communities of practice, and whole systems. And this assessment tool helps us to identify patterns of aliveness. What is it that enlivens ourselves as individual leaders, but also teams that are collectively leading change processes? What is it that enlivens a network or a system of actors? The complementary methodology is the dialogic change model on the right. It's not a squiggle quite, but at least it's a spiral. It's definitely not linear and looking to curves here. So a process methodology that integrates the compass and supports a very human-centered approach to results-oriented and structured preparation and implementation of collaborations with a diversity of stakeholders. And the words that I've already heard coming up around living systems, breath, pattern, these are words that will continue to resonate in this quick presentation here. So around the compass, some key questions that we like to bring into the work that we do on each dimension. Around future possibilities, we might ask questions like, what inspires us to shape the future together? Engagement might lead us down the path of asking questions like, how to engage those who need to be involved? How much interest do they have? How much influence do they have over a given change process? How do we engage individuals and institutional actors in such a way that they feel shared ownership and a commitment for implementation? Innovation, what already exists? Let's not reinvent things, but what also needs to be fostered in terms of technical, but also social innovations that might help enliven our collaboration. In the humanity dimension, we're trying to create meaning, connect with people's hearts, so that we can bring both our analytical minds and our emotive hearts to the work that we get to do. Collective intelligence asks questions around leveraging diverse perspectives, expertise, and competencies. So people will fundamentally see a challenge or an opportunity or a system itself from different perspectives. How can we bring those perspectives into dialogue so that they create something new, create something that could not have been created by just one actor in isolation? And very broadly, wholeness, how can our work belongs in a bigger picture? How can it contribute to larger narratives for justice, for sustainability, for peace? And what this can look like concretely, I'll put the dimensions up there. So we're trying to steward these patterns of aliveness with the compass. So with future possibilities, shaping the future together by also identifying, co-developing emotionally compelling goals that not only make sense, but also speak to care and motivation in terms of why we do the work. Engagement, we're building step-by-step high-quality processes that can enliven collaboration ecosystems, nested, small to large systems that help bring about commitment for change. Innovation, these new pathways, we're nurturing existing innovative initiatives, but also fostering space for other creative solutions to emerge and prototyping the kind of future we want to live in. Humanity is very much about dignity, about accessing shared values through collective reflection, building constructive relationships that really center individuals and the perspectives that they bring in to a given change process. Collective intelligence helps us make sense of things through ongoing learning, through structured dialogue, and harvesting the difference in the room for progress. And finally, wholeness. So we're trying to connect in network patterns of action. So we're staying connected to a larger goal, creating impact in a larger context, and finding complementarities with other initiatives. This dimension can often help us go beyond a project-based mentality to, yes, use a project, but make sure that we embed sustainability in different ways, in capacity, in institutions, so that there is a longer-term shift in a culture of dialogue, a culture of collaboration. I'll shift to our second model. So we take a lot of inspiration from nature, and we see a lot of spirals in nature here in a shell. A shell builds upon itself in a given process, and that's the same that we see in this dialogic change model. It's not a circle that ends where it started, but it's a spiral that moves us to a new place. And so in the work that we get to do, we offer the dialogic change model with a special emphasis on early exploring and engaging phases, allowing enough informal time to explore the context, to test for resonance, to ensure people see a given challenge or opportunity in the same way, and to integrate different views, adapt our approach before we get too formalized. Before phase one is over, convening a core team, a container for change that takes on some responsibility for driving the change process and is roughly representative of the system that you're seeking to change. If phase one, to use the language we just heard, phase one is often quite divergent, phase two is convergent. And so we have to get specific in the convergent phase, get a bit more formal to say, okay, what are the specific goals and resources that we have at hand, defining resources very broadly, networks, relationship, knowledge, financial resources, space, transportation, all of it, so that we can plan the future together and consolidate a sufficient amount of agreement and sufficient structures for moving into a phase three on implementing, evaluating. So here, ensuring that both our internal communications and external communications are transparent and helping to continue enliven our collaboration ecosystem. We look for opportunities to celebrate and keep that aliveness really cultivated through celebration. And we're embedding learning mechanisms. And here I would link back to the discussion we just had on complexity or messiness. And I feel like the work that we're involved in, systems change work, is inherently messy and complex. For me, the question then becomes, how do we navigate complexity? Part of that is happening here while we're implementing and requires learning, requires fundamentally that we adapt an attitude of kindness towards one another, in the sense that if we're being ambitious enough and we're doing complex work, there will be missteps that occur. We can expect that. That's part of the messiness or part of the complexity. And instead of getting to a place where we're pointing fingers at each other, we say, oh, that happened. We expected something like that could happen. How can we learn from it? And to use a word that's being used already, how do we adapt? How do we navigate that complexity? Some initiatives will end after a phase three, and that's perfectly fine. They've been implemented, evaluated, celebrated. Some will move into a phase four, sustaining impact and expanding that impact. This might have to do with further institutionalizing an initiative, replicating it in other locations, or maybe even scaling it up. And importantly, you notice here, for example, building your next level container. Phase four is really an invitation to spiral into a new phase one. So any kind of replication requires a further engagement process. Institutionalization, scaling, the same, will require another trip through an expanding shell, dialogic change model. And finally, the way we combine the two, the compass is a tool for navigating. So if the dialogic change model represents a journey, the compass is very useful to assess the pattern of aliveness early on in a given phase, as you're moving from one phase into the next, to then inform planning, to notice what are the strengths in our system, what are the areas where we could develop, and what kinds of implications might that have for the coming phase of our work. The question, what is needed now to further enliven our collaboration ecosystem? And that's fundamentally what we try to do by bringing these models together. And so I'd go back to living systems as a last slide. We're looking for these nested patterns, whether it's the single mushroom or multiple mushrooms going out into the understory and into full ecosystems. This is part of our understanding of systems complexity, of living systems complexity, that I think we also share with CoCreative. I'll pause there because that was the conceptual piece from CLI's side. And I would love to invite Sumaya to come in from We Love Kairouan, so that she can give us a practical example of what this might look like in practice. Sumaya, please, the floor is yours on behalf of We Love Kairouan. Go for it.
Hello again, everyone. I hope I Dominic made everything as not the practical side, but the theoretical side. So I'm trying to make it as much as possible, you understand why we are using the CM and the compass in our project. So the association We Love Kairouan, or We Love Kairouan, it's an association made from 2012. It is our basic mission is to be an incubator of multi-stakeholders in Kairouan, but also in a different region in Tunisia. And also our mission is to create more equitable and prosperous community in Kairouan, also in other places, not only in Kairouan. And we focusing more on empowering youth and women through sustainable projects. We worked with a lot of different association or organization, not only national and international. We worked with the different funders, but also we worked as partner with Collective Leadership Institute, of course with other funders like IPA and the German Embassy, etc. But our Collective Leadership Institute, the partnership, to be more specific, it's more as Dominic explained, to make the approach more practical in our project. So what we are doing, our collaboration, it was I think it's almost 10 years now. So it's from 2016. So the main goal where we are trying to work on this approach, or why we are CLI came to the Association of We Love Kairouan and say, okay, we have an approach and we want you to do it. So it's not like that. We wanted to be more working on participatory approach. So our main goal is building a group of facilitator and participatory of dialogue approach, which the DCM, the Compass, and other also aspects in the approach itself. The strategy is more collaborative with all sectors, and what we mean by the all sector is working with not only youth and women. Of course, we wanted to the focus will be on youth and women, but also we cannot do everything without including everyone.
The partnership with CLI, as Sumaya said, it started since 2016. And following the approach of the CLI, having this collaboration with multiple sectors, public, private, civil societies, it's been kind of helpful to implement our initiative and our work. So this approach that helps in engaging multiple sectors has been effective in collecting and efforts and engagement from different people, connecting them in the same or the main purpose that have everyone working together. It's been really effective, especially focusing in the impact of Kairouan. Dominic, if you may share the next slide so I can share my my perspective on the feminist leaders, since I'm part of this project. So yeah, as you see in this slide, from 2016, there'd been a partnership with CLI in youth project, and the Medina platform for doing good governance. Also, yeah, I've been heard of this project, the Young Leaders Network. Also, since 2023, this project, which I've been part in. So yeah, this project contains like more than 25 women, aims to women leadership and women rights and empowering women, like called Feminist Leaders Network.
The main challenges that we started to face is how we can build the trust, especially we are new everything. So it was like after the revolution, like the trust between all these multi-stakeholder or these actors was very, very low, and it's kind of disappointing. So everyone is not trusting anyone, especially if they like setting together. And even when they are like they assemble together or something, it's always there is a conflict, there is a fight, there is no common like working, like they don't have to work, like they are not working together. And even the association and the government itself, for example, in the region, they are rarely working together, especially, for example, the association, like they do just they need some document or paperwork, that's it. So our work wasn't like that deep. Another challenge was like bringing different actors with different value to one table was difficult but essential first step. Like it was like very difficult because we wanted to work on phase one, and the like Dominic talked about that, how we can explore and engage in all the stakeholders. So we started like one by one, but also we handle the DCM, like the campus together, so we can see how we can engage them, but also how we can explore and build a project together. To be honest, like it was like very difficult to engage all the multi-stakeholders, but we insist on engaging all of them. Like we didn't want to just working with civil society or just working with private sector or just working with the public sector. It was like very difficult. And the first like months, especially, it was working with the like integrating public sector was one difficult because they are not used to that. And you know, the traditional, they are like kind of not like, they have a traditional offices and etc., and they not use it to work in a table, like a circle table, and working together and talking about participatory approach. So what happened after that, we are implementing, and we held more than like 5 or 6 workshops, and we invited all the public stakeholders and talk about the problematic. What is good and made all the stakeholders trust us is that we're working on the problematic and the big theme. For example, we work on feminism, and also we working on the problematic of the feminism in Kirwan, but also we don't, for example, tell them, okay, hey, we have to do this initiative and this initiative and this initiative, and we were gonna create something. No, it's everything came from all the stakeholders that came, like they are like attended in the workshop and the training. So the idea itself, the themes itself was from us, we agree on working on feminism, but also they are creating all the initiative or the sub-project inside the feminism project. And that's why it came like from the co-creation and become more formalizing and rebuilding trust between all the stakeholders. So the collaborative approach like moved beyond just only discussion, didn't only like talking and going home, but also we creating initiatives with suggestions, activities, and idea we want to do together. And they are learning about the DCM and the approach, and also they were learning in a safe space with the different stakeholders and their suggestions and new like ideas and new thoughts, and even developing each other ideas. So this is actually build the trust and shared sense of the purpose of that we want, why we like the association, what we love Kirwan, want to do something in Kirwan. So it was building trust, and there is a sharing sense of working something together, not only feminism, but also another different ideas and initiatives. And also we can give an example of the feminist like school, which we created together as multi-stakeholders, not only the girl who's doing the training, there is like around 25 girls was like doing the training, and also stakeholders from different delegations from the government, public sector, and private sector as well. We developed a school together, which is feminist school that's created in Willow Kerwin called We Learn. We can give you some information after that. We Learn, it's like a non-formal education. And we're working also with other delegation, like delegation of education, like it is an administrative governmental like institute. And also, can you just move to the next slide? Thank you. Yeah, what is like the most concrete like success in our like project, not only in the feminist school, like it's like we have the project Dialogue of Medina, which is one of the most something I like, the project I really like and I'm proud of because I was part of this project, is like creating like a dialogue between a lot of stakeholders that they don't have, like they are like they have a lot of conflict together, but we like bring them together in one table and we tell them, hey, we're gonna work on something. It's gonna be difficult, but we will choose something together. So it was the most thing that they came up. It's like they co-create an architectural design for an old souk they wanted to open, and their design was like a great success in the local community, and everyone shared it. Even the tourism delegation adopted like as a project, and they wanted to give like funding from the government. And also we wrote together a project called we wrote together a project with the municipality. So the municipality like called us and tell us, we want to work on the approach you are working on. So it is like it's like we are even not implementing project, but also we are working another thing with the municipality, not only the superficial thing doing like small activity, but also we worked together on a proposal by the Ministry of Construction, and the project like accepted by the government, and now he's like in the implementation side. So this is like we succeeded to move to the phase 3, but also we succeeded on a move to phase 4, and also we succeeded on doing a partnership with delegations and with delegation and public sector, like tourism delegation, municipalities, also with being like a decision maker with public sector for an association in Kirwan. It's something like not all the association can do. So our voices is now heard by public and private sectors. We build a trust, like it was like all the stakeholders till now, like we still have like a very strong relationship. We only not inviting them to event, etc., but also we even started to like they call us to write project with them, and understanding what we are doing is more not only superficial like the association, not just doing activity, etc., but also it's more deeper than that. And this is what we can call in the dialogue exchange model, it's phase 4. Then after that, I can say like can you move to the next slides? I can maybe add something to say, like it's more important than that. It's actually it's good to be has like a funding place that, or a funding founder that can fund your project and activity, etc. But the most thing that stays and sustain it is like the trust we build between all the stakeholders, and also the engagement and the collective intelligence we build together in this project. So as I said before, like we till now still have like another project, but we also still like have a strong relationship with the stakeholders. We're still working not only with the collective leadership in this approach, but also with other projects like USAID and British Council, British Embassy, etc. We like applying the DCM and the Compass in other like project, because it's guaranteed that we establish formal community with lasting structure that work with the municipality. So there is like sustainability not only in the collective leadership but in other projects. And we can give some example about the municipality now as call us on the facilitation support writing project proposal. There is a collaborative approach is now being used for new project, as I said, like for example in USAID and with with British Embassy or other founders. And maybe I can add something about DCM and Compass. That's like the main thing that we wanted to like we agree on working with is like in the DCM, it's very important to have like the dimension of humanity. Humanity is very important. Engagement is very important, and all the aspect or the lenses, as Dominic earlier said, it's very important to work on collaboration and to work on building trust and involve with all stakeholders. So not only we can like we co-create a future, but also we co-create a platform of stakeholders that we can work not only this project but in other projects. Maybe last thing I can add is like the dimension in the DCM and the Compass. They are not only like help us co-develop, co-change, co-collaborate, or co-create a platform, but also it's like creating a shared value. We work it together. And for me, maybe personally, because I worked with the DCM or the Compass, and the Compass for me, it's more like as start of the project, you can guide it, like it's made you like it can be a guidance for you in the process of the project and the implementation. It's kind of monitoring and evaluation, and also in the last, like in the end of the project or something, it can be like it can lead you to how we can ensure sustainability. So I think, yeah, sorry again for the interruption earlier, but I hope like I explained all the thing. Yeah. So yeah, please like share with me your questions. And yeah.
Sumaya, thanks very much for working through the technical challenges. Your audio got better and better actually as you were talking. A round of applause for Sumaya, please, for the work that she and the whole We Love Kairouan team has been doing. You might notice that she was talking about multiple projects, and essentially what I hear is building a culture of trust, a culture of dialogue, a culture of collaboration, a collaboration ecosystem that continues to exist and is really vital and can move on to other projects at that city level. That's what we love to see in stakeholder systems like this, is when there's a shared language that emerges, a shared language around leading change collectively. It becomes easier and more efficient to bring in Compass dimensions or talk about which phase are we moving into in the dialogic change model and so on. Sumaya, the question I see in the text chat, I'm not sure it's visible to you. How are you helping your partners in Kairouan govern their partnerships? Like what do the partnerships that have been established through these different projects, how are you helping them form new kinds of governance? Like you've established new relationships among partners that weren't there before. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's actually like all the projects we are working on, like with CLI or with other projects, is like building the relationship with the stakeholders, like mainly formal relationships. But it's a good thing that we are like, you see, like for example, we talked, I think I see context analysis. So what we do at first with the, like, for example, the DCM in phase 1, it's like, because we talked a little bit about the DCM as an engagement, like phase, like for example engagement phase. So the engagement phase, it's like deeply, it's not only engaging, so we contact the stakeholder only, but also we do an analyzing, we do the grid of the main people have to be in the project. For example, if feminism, and we have talking about education, so mainly it's gonna be like education institution, for example the public sector, and the private sector, for example, is gonna be teachers, gonna be schoolers, it's going to be schools, it's going to be like universities, etc. But also we will need feminism, like we will need like delegation of feminism and like delegation of women and children. And also how we build that, if we start first of all analyzing and see who's the, like for example we said it as the first container, who's going to be in the first container in the project, who's going to be like influencing, and also it's going to be like in a power position that we can help us and support us in co-creating this project. So this is the first thing that we do build in, and like we do analyze our the who's gonna be in the, like we do analyzing stakeholder analysis, we call it. So we have like this chart of all the stakeholder we wanted to do. How we build that with the partnership, it came out with the phases 3, for example, phases 4, that after we do together, for example, at least like 3-4 months, we do in training workshop. We, the idea first become like, I don't know how the pyramid, the pyramid, like the opposite pyramid, like from the base, it was like everything vague. I remember, I think Lena, earlier talk about, like from the vague thing, we started to be more specific. So we started the problematic with our stakeholder, for example, the bigger theme, for example. Then after that, we came out with what we are gonna do, for example, initiative, etc. The initiatives that came with the stakeholder that they already proposed, they are them who propose the initiatives, and the activity build that partnership. For example, if we are going to do something in school, is we not as an association allowed to do something. So the delegation of institution, the institution of education, they proposed to do a partnership together to be more formal, that we can act freely or legally in this in the public place. So I don't know if I answer you. So please go ahead if anyone have some other questions.
Maybe one thing I could add in terms of a new structure that I know you've built in Kairouan is a multi-stakeholder dialogue platform that isn't necessarily directly changing governance of institutions, but is a place for convening the right set of actors on a regular basis to address topics that are of relevance for the city. So I know that's a big success that We Love Kairouan has been able to put in place, and partly because of this trusted decision maker or trusted partner role that We Love Kairouan has been able to build up for itself in an otherwise very hierarchical and context that didn't have a lot of trust in it initially. Just looking to the text chat, people are grateful. Somaya, thanking you here. Thank you both so much. A couple of people have a hard stop. I know we are a couple of minutes over the planned time. I'm not seeing any additional questions. What we could do, and Sumaya, I've pasted the We Love Kairouan portfolio is in the text chat. There's a link to also an article that CLI and We Love Kairouan co-authored, where there's also further information. And we will be sharing the full slide set with you, so you would have contact information also for Sumaya and her team if you'd wish to go a little further. If it's all right, Sumaya, I think let's wrap that input up with a round of applause for you and for the team. I know there's a lot of celebration happening in Kairouan also as you launch your Feminist Leaders Network. So thank you very much for the work you're doing, and we look forward to hearing more to come from Kairouan. Melissa, I wonder if I think you wanted me to share the slides before. Do you want me to do that again? And you could share some of CoCreative's resources.
Yeah, you bet. And
Okay.
since we're going to be sharing the slide deck out with some additional resources and things that you'll get after the call, I don't want to belabor it too much. I just so we can scroll through really quickly. I just want you to know that if you're curious about CoCreative's methodologies or how we think about multi-stakeholder collaboration, we do have a number of learning opportunities coming up in January and then throughout 2026. There's a couple that I want to highlight specifically, one on the next slide that we're actually really excited about. And even if this isn't for you, invitation is for you to help spread the word. I have a facilitation course to help people build their collaborative muscles around leading groups through some of the patterns and the processes that we talked about today. And we're offering it for the first time fully in Spanish. So we would love it if you have people who you might know who would be interested, if you would share that opportunity. And then in the deck as well, there are a number of other things. Maybe we could just skip ahead to slide 61. We want you to know that we believe that everybody does better when we all do better. And so we give away all of our tools for free on our website. This will be coming to you again in the post-com, so you don't have to write anything down. But we do have lots of tools and collaboration resources that we welcome you to check out. And if you have any questions about how to implement them, please email me and we'll set up a call, walk through it. We also have a brand new AI advisor that we have generated, and we've trained on all of our specific tools and methodologies. So that's a free resource. We invite you to take a look at that too. So thank you, Dominic, for putting those links in the chat, and we'll send them out. It would just, it's so great to be with you, excited to cheer on all of the wonderful work that you're doing around the world. And what a truly hopeful way to be ending 2025 with these stories of emergence and complexity and possibility and success. So just, I honor you, I thank you, I see you. What a privilege to be with you today.
Nice. Thanks very much, Melissa. Let me add a few resources and events. I'll put some links in the text chat. This is an open access book that further describes the collective leadership compass, the dialogic change model, along with lots and lots of cases. It's very practitioner oriented, so feel free to download that. We do have an early bird discount for all of our 2026 courses. If you can pick out individual courses, or if you do one of the Compass courses, Art of Leading Collectively or the Art of Feminist Leadership, plus one that's focused on the dialogic change model, the Art of Stakeholder Collaboration, plus a third one, an advanced level one, either Art of Process Facilitation or Art of Transformative Change, then you become certified as a collective leadership specialist, like Sumaya and quite a few other individuals on this call, and would join our community of practice. We have monthly events organized with and for specialists. Other discounts also apply, alumni, youth, and so on. There's an info session on January 29th. I'll put the link in the text chat. Feel free to join us to learn more about this certification program. Also a free event. This is our 5th annual Transformation Literacy Conference is coming up in April. We'd love to see you there. I'll put a registration link in the text chat. We're going to focus on intergenerational collaborations for cultures of peace during this upcoming online event. So love to see you there. And finally, Melissa, I think we can include the feedback form in the follow-up email. Maybe we have a chance just now for a brief checkout to wrap up the session. That be okay?
Yeah, I love that. So again, thank you for hanging out with us a little bit over time. We appreciate the generosity of heart and spirit. Invite you to come off of mute, put your videos back on if you can, and maybe wish everyone a joyful departure from this collective space that we have created together. We're going to do this concurrently, so I'm leveraging one of the patterns. We don't have to do it one at a time, in your own language or however you wish to send good wishes before we all log off. I'll say in English and in Spanish, felicidades. Les quiero mucho.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, you all. Grateful for you.
Gracias.
Happy holidays.
Adiós. Happy
Happy holidays.
holidays.
Thank you.